Welcome back to the UpVote channel. What's the worst date you've ever been on? Wasn't necessarily the date, which was bad on its own, but the fact that she hung out in my parking lot for 2 hours after she dropped me off, in case I changed my mind about doing something after dinner. Back in college, I was invited to an ice rink with a girl I liked and some of her friends. I did not know how to ice skate, and I did not pick it up very quickly, but I wanted to try and impress her somehow. Well, I hugged the wall the whole time and made a fool of myself. The highlight was when I saw a flash of light as I fell in front of a group of people. Turns out I had fallen right at the moment someone took a picture, so my failure was immortalized forever. She took me back to my apartment and ended the relationship before it began. On a lighter note, the woman who is now my wife was at that ice rink on that night. We didn't realize we were there the same time until a year or two into our relationship, and she exclaimed, "You were that guy who couldn't ice skate." Yeah, she didn't seem that into you. He was more than 3 hours late, and was texting me telling me that he was 20 minutes away for 2 of those hours. As soon as he arrived, he tried to tell me to leave the part of the venue/dive bar I had already paid into so we could go where he wanted, tried to start a fight with a friend I'd happened to run into, and called my aunt, who talked me into going out with him in the first place, a cock-blocking bitch. I just walked away from him after that last one, and we never spoke again. I waited so long because I liked the bands that were playing. I wouldn't have stayed if I was sitting around doing nothing. He got there just before the last band finished, but I'd had about enough of him by then, because he'd been telling me that he was on the train in the same place for 2 hours. We don't live out in the middle of nowhere, and he could have easily gotten a bus or tram the rest of the way in that time if there was a problem with the train. He never gave me a proper excuse, but I didn't really care at that point. Went on a blind date with a lady who wouldn't stop picking at her scabs. Just made a pile out of them on the restaurant table. I excused myself to use the washroom, and when I came back my soup was there, but the pile of scabs wasn't. No, I didn't eat the soup. Guy told me he just recently got out of a long-term relationship, so he wasn't looking for a commitment, but asked me if he could be my maintenance man, as he stroked his penis through his jeans. You met one of the only guys in real life. Made plans with this guy I knew from a charity I was on the board with. He takes me a chain Mexican restaurant. I pull up a few minutes early, but my dad flies a plane and was going to be flying overhead of the restaurant, and I wanted to see him fly over. At 8 o'clock sharp, the guy calls me and tells me that I am late. I try to explain the whole flyby thing. He isn't having it. We go inside, and I try to order some food, and he tells me that we are not getting food and that I can't eat. Then he starts going off on major political rants, which I'm completely opposed to. I ask him if this is all a joke, or if he is being serious. I finally convince him to at least get an appetizer. I was not allowed to choose. He got guacamole, table side, but only had them put onions in the avocado. I was planning my escape when he asked, "Are you figuring out how you are going to leave?" "Yep. Thanks for the one domestic beer. Bye." I went out with a guy that my roommate set me up with a few years ago. First, he was vocally irritated that I wore heels because it made him less taller than me. Note, he was still taller than me by a few inches, but just less taller. Dinner went alright, although we didn't have a whole lot in common. After dinner, we met back up with my roommate and her boyfriend, and we all went to a house party of their friends. I basically knew no one. At the party, my date's, somewhat newly, ex-girlfriend was there. To summarize, she called me a whore, spilled my drink on me, threatened to fight me, told me she gave him herpes, left, came back an hour later looking for me, hugged me, grabbed my ass, and apologized and told me I was hot. so I guess it went pretty well by the end of the night. We spent most of the day going shopping for clothes for another date she had later that week. It's kind of funny seeing as how she was the one that asked me out. I went on a Tinder date with a guy who is now in my contacts as Dodo Tancer Penis Pic. Prior to the date, he seemed normal. We texted and talked on the phone, then arranged to meet at a restaurant/bar. He was cute but definitely bitter about something. He was from California and apparently didn't like this new city we were in. He started talking about sex and blowjobs and complaining about how uptight everyone here is about sex. He invited the waitress to a party his company was throwing after sending back the French fries he ordered. I showed him a picture of my dog on my phone. He took out his phone and showed me a picture of his penis. We walked out of the restaurant together to get our cars from the valet. My car came first and I left. He texted me later that he had my sweater. Apparently I dropped it on the way out, and if I wanted to see it again, I'd have to hang out with him. RIP sweater. Be sure to write in the comments what you think about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and watch our other videos.